Captain America was once again slated to begin production, this time in June 1987. It did not. Instead, 2 years later in 1989, under enormous pressure from compounding debt and ongoing legal action, Menachem Golan split from Cannon Films to run his own production studio called 21st Century Films.
When it was apparent that 21st Century was starting to run into some financial issues, I said, well, why don't you do Captain America? He thought about it and he said, well, I couldn't come up with a huge budget for it, like Superman. And I said, but he's not Superman, he's a regular guy. And if you can make this movie, you could probably save your company.
They were very excited about this strange oddball take on a superhero story in which it was really anti-corporate, and it was about the corporate takeover of America and a chip being planted in the brain of the President of the United States to control him.
Congratulations.
Heil Hitler!
He basically cash flowed the movie where he could through foreign sales, and we would take a suitcase around the different countries in Europe, open it up, and want the foreign buyer in that territory to throw cash into the suitcase and take cash back to Yugoslavia where we were shooting.
Sometimes on a film, lightning strikes, and for no particular reason that anybody can understand, everything works. And sometimes the dark lightning strikes, and for no reason that anyone can understand, nothing works.
The ultimate battle for justice is about to begin. Captain America.
We had to cut out all the action. And then towards the end of the film, we shot days with no film in the cameras. We just pretended like we had film, and then we would say that the film that night went to the lab and was ruined, and we had to come back the next day, shoot the same thing over again. We had more suddenly we had film, we had just enough short ends to make it through.
The script as written was not shot.
I'll come and get you when we get out.
Are you kidding? I'm not bailing out on Captain America. Let's go.
For the things that don't work in the movie, I would say that the things that were shot and the things that weren't shot are about equally to blame.
He wasn't starting from scratch. In fact, he was allowed to take the rights to Captain America with him. He commissioned a new script from Stephen Tolkien and enlisted a new director with extensive Cannon Films experience, Albert Pyun. According to Pyun, Captain America was his dream project. He'd been a fan of the comics since he was a kid. In fact, it was Pyun who suggested that Menachem Golan secure the rights from Cannon before he left. Pyun directed a number of pictures for Cannon before, during, and after they were in financial distress. Dangerously Close, Down, Twisted, Alien from LA, and Cyborg, all between 1986 and 1989. He was so essential to Cannon Films' financial solvency that he was already penciled in for Spider-Man and the sequels for Masters of the Universe, Superman, and Delta Force. Pyun read the Tolkien draft of Captain America and loved it. Golan didn't have a lot of money to put into a big budget spectacle, but the rights were almost up and they had to do something. Pyun offered a solution to getting a film shot with a bare-bones budget and before they ran out of time. Pyun asked Marvel if they could use the red, white, and black suit that Steve Rogers recently used in the comics when he resigned the title of Captain America rather than follow orders he believed to be unconstitutional. Marvel said no. Pyun asked Marvel if he could add a tactical belt to the suit. Marvel said no. He asked if they could add the scale armor detail many artists added to the suit in the comics. Marvel said no. Steve Rogers and Captain America were played by Matt Salinger, son of Catcher in the Rye author J.D. Salinger. Matt previously appeared in big screen features like Revenge of the Nerds in 1984 and made for TV movies like Blood and Orchids in 1986. Salinger's red, white, and blue suit was a heavy rubber material with muscle padding that, by all reports, did not circulate air very well. Shooting was originally planned to be in Italy, but budget cuts moved the location to Yugoslavia in the middle of the summer where temperatures regularly passed 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Salinger fought heat exhaustion and lost 25 pounds, which I will assume was sweat that collected in his boots. On top of that, the eye holes were weirdly placed, and the ear holes chafed so much that they eventually just put fake ears on the outside of his mask. Scott Paulin played Tadzio DeSantis, who was transformed into the Red Skull and is now Italian instead of German. Paulin had an extensive acting portfolio in films like Cat People in 1982, The Right Stuff in 1983, Teen Wolf in 1985, and Turner and Hooch in 1989. Ronnie Cox played U.S. President Tom Kimball, Ned Beatty showed up as the diligent reporter Sam Kolowitz, Bill Mumy played Lieutenant Fleming in the 40s, while Darren McGavin played General Fleming in the 90s. Melinda Dillon, who played McGavin's wife in 1983's A Christmas Story, took a turn as Steve Rogers' mom in Captain America. After years of delays, as the 5-year license was set to expire, Captain America finally began shooting in 1989 and finished in 1990. Major script rewrites were required when the production moved to Yugoslavia, a necessity after the original $6 million budget disappeared. Or rather, the money was never secured to begin with. Turns out Menachem Golan never actually closed the loan with the bank. According to some sources, there was no regular budget. As Pyun himself put it, quote, "I had to scale back the action and scramble for finishing funds. I made the most of it by going more deeply into Steve Rogers' character." It is said that one of the producers would randomly be presented with a suitcase full of cash, sometimes as much as $5,000. They shot when they could shoot, crossed their fingers, and hoped it all worked out in the end.
The Americans have made a poor choice for their champion.
There's not much you can do if you can't afford to continue shooting. They had to cut things together with what they had, rather than say, let's do the entire sequence as it's written in the script. And that hurt.
With the Red Skull, they just painted makeup on Scott Polland's face, and it's just for today's fans, and even for those days' fans, not good enough.
There were a lot of places where they didn't have material, so they'd have to just cut and hope that the audience could follow it.
I went to a screening. It was not a happy experience for me. I was comatose when it was over, and several friends had to physically carry me out of the screening room and take me to a sushi bar next door and pour sake down my throat to revive me.
And now I send our tortured souls to rest.
Speak for yourself.
What we and the actors really pulled off was quite a miracle, that they didn't bail on the thing. So I consider it to be a real achievement, something that I'm proud of more than embarrassed by.
And here they come. Hopefully it's a kind audience for a 20-year-old movie.